The story begins with a woman named Juri Yukawa riding a train to her 19th job interview. She hasn't had any luck in the ones before and thinks about how much her future depends on it. The 22-year-old graduate remains nervous throughout the ride because she knows that if she doesn't land the job, she'll have to return home to her unemployed father and brother. Soon, she arrives at her destination, and just like the interviews before, she doesn't get the job. Disappointed, Juri reflects on the situation at home and remembers her similarly jobless father, Takasumi, and brother, Tsubasa, and how they spend their days slacking off. The two men don't seem to care about their current situation and are prepared to keep living like that, but thankfully, Juri has a studious nephew named Makoto, who has a bright future ahead of him, and his presence in her life makes it feel just a little bit less miserable. Still feeling bad about failing her 19th attempt to break free from the curse of unemployment, Juri visits her grandfather's house and lies down on the floor. When he joins her, she laments to him about how badly she needs a job so she can move out of the family house. Hearing this, her grandfather asks her why she's in such a hurry to leave, and she reveals that she doesn't want to become like her mother, who's taken up the role of the house's breadwinner, and also explains that she doesn't like her father's bad habits. Their chat is cut short when Juri's older sister calls her, asking if she can pick up her son, Makoto, from school. Because Juri looks up to her hard-working sister, she's happy to help out. When she returns to her family house, she finds Tsubasa playing video games while her father is smoking. The sight upsets her, so she asks Tsubasa to pick Makoto up from school so he'd at least leave the house for a change. Sure enough, he refuses, so she doesn't force him and instead taunts him till he decides to prove her wrong. After he goes to the school, Juri's father talks with her about how much she's changed and how ambitious she's become, unlike her brother. A while later, the girl receives a call from Makoto's class teacher, informing her that a strange man came to take the child. Juri explains that Tsubasa is his uncle, so the teacher lets him go with Makoto. On the way home, Tsubasa and Makoto are approached by a shady man, who claims that he attended the same school as Tsubasa. He doesn't recognize the guy and can't recall him either, so the strange man tries to convince him, taking him to the back of the van. In the process, Tsubasa carelessly lets go of Makoto's hand, and suddenly, two other men appear and grab the kid. Realizing that Makoto's in danger, Tsubasa tries to rescue him, but he sucks at fighting, so he quickly gets knocked out. The men are members of a cult called the Genuine Love Society, and they've been sent to abduct them. As Makoto struggles to escape, they take the unconscious Tsubasa in the van with them before driving off. Later that day, the kidnappers call Juri, demanding a 5 million yen ransom. Initially, she assumes that it's a prank call, but then the abductor threatens to kill them if she doesn't provide the ransom money in the next 30 minutes. Scared and confused, Juri tries to appeal to the abductor, but he doesn't listen to her and just hurts Tsubasa to make her more afraid. Before he ends the call, he warns her not to inform the police, threatening to kill the hostages on the spot if he finds out. Left with no choice, Juri and Takafumi visit her grandfather to ask him for his life savings. Takafumi then asks Juri to stay with her grandfather while he goes to meet the kidnappers. A guilt-ridden Juri feels like it's all her fault, believing that if she hadn't pushed Tsubasa to pick Makoto up from school, they wouldn't have been abducted. So, she insists on following her father to the kidnappers' base. He tries to dissuade her, but the girl is unyielding. She then picks up a knife and wraps it before hiding it in her clothes. At this point, she's ready for whatever might happen when they meet the abductors, and is determined to save Makoto even if it means putting her life at risk. Takafumi refuses to let her do anything irrational and drags the knife from her. The grandfather sees the tension and decides to take matters into his own hands. He reveals a large stone and tells them to place their hands on it. He then slashes his hand and drops the blood on the stone while chanting a word. Suddenly, the black dome covers them, and 3 blue creatures enter their bodies. Time stops, and the dome spreads out beyond what they can see. The 3 go outside and find out that everything in the world has stopped moving, and they're the only ones who are unaffected. The grandfather explains that they're in a state called stasis, and that the practice of using the stone to achieve it has been passed down for generations. Takafumi asks his father why he didn't tell them about it sooner, so he responds by telling them that people tend to abuse its overwhelming power. Soon, they arrive at the hideout where Tsubasa and Makoto are being held captive. However, they find out that they're not the only ones who can move in stasis, because a group of thugs suddenly ambush them as they try to rescue the hostages. Takafumi gets knocked out with a bat, and just when Juri is about to be hit as well, her grandfather teleports them outside, leaving Makoto behind. Outside, one of the goons threatens to kill Makoto, holding a knife to his neck, but just then, a giant monster suddenly appears in front of everybody at the hideout. After that, we find ourselves in a flashback from a few months back, where a group of people led by a man named Jingi Sugawa are searching for the Master Stone. They're called the Genuine Love Society, and they're the same people who abducted Makoto and Tsubasa. Sugawa is currently watching the giant creature, which he calls the Herald, as it looms over his cult members and the hostages. As the goon holds the knife to Makoto's neck, the creature appears behind him and kills him. Juri tries to save Makoto, but her grandfather stops her and teleports her out of the place, leaving the others behind. We soon find out that the cult plans to kill the others and keep her grandfather alive to get some information from him. Meanwhile, outside, Juri's grandfather tells her about the creature they saw. He calls it the Handler and tells her that its role is to preserve the rules of the stasis. It killed the cult member earlier because he was about to break one of the rules, which is never to hurt or kill a motionless person in stasis. He doesn't know everything about the Handler, however, so he advises Juri to be careful. Juri asks him why other people were able to move in stasis with them. He doesn't know the answer to this either, but what he's certain of is that the people are trying to capture them for some reason. Juri suggests that they go back to rescue the others, but her grandfather explains that he can't teleport with a stalled person in stasis. Meanwhile, back at the hideout, Takafumi is captured and tied up by a member of the cult. The members worry that the Handler might be a problem, but Tsugawa explains that the creature is helping them. Unbeknownst to him, when the creature arrived, it allowed Tsubasa to enter the stasis world. He quietly listens to their conversations and hears Tsugawa talking with the woman who led their abduction, Majima Shoko. Outside, Juri's grandfather reveals that there's a way he can save the others. He believes that he could redo the spell to create a new stasis, where the cult members are stalled as well. However, there's a downside to this plan, and that's the fact that they would leave without Takafumi and never see him again. As a result, Juri asks him to teach her teleportation so she can go back for her father. He tries his best to do so, but after failed attempts to teach Juri how to teleport, the grandfather tells her to go back to his house while he goes to find his son. The old man sneaks into the Genuine Love Society's base when they're all out, but when he enters, he's shocked to see a stone and surveillance footage that proves the society has been spying on them. At that moment, Juri's grandfather realizes that the cult wants two things: his family's stone and the spell. Meanwhile, at her grandfather's house, Juri is attacked by a man. She defends herself against him and searches for the stone. She doesn't find it. Instead, she sees a group of men waiting for her. They already have the stone, so they decide to kill her right away. One of the men strangles her, but just when she's about to give up, she remembers Makoto and calls his name. Suddenly, her eyes turn white, and she manages to push the man off her. The guy starts to feel a serious headache and bleeds from his nose, and shortly after, the blue glowing creature is forced out of his body. Majima calls the creature a specter, and believes that they're the reason people can move in stasis. Juri then uses her new power to escape with her family's stone, leaving all the cult members who tried to stop her trapped in time like everything else in stasis. After awakening the hidden power to expel the specters from others who can move in stasis, Juri runs out and hides in a car while the other cult members search for her. While all of this is happening, her grandfather is running back home, afraid that she might have been caught in a trap. After using the new power to take back the stone, Juri finally escapes from the men. After the girls escape, Majima orders her men to go after her and bring her back alive. Still in captivity, Makoto gets a specter and is finally able to move in stasis, just like Tsukasa who woke up before him. With his new ability, he curiously explores the world as everything else stands still. Even though cult members know that the grandfather has teleportation ability, they still chase after him and Juri, but just like before, the two manage to get away. After evading the cultists again, Juri and her grandfather decide to walk together in the middle of the road so that they can see the cult members coming, in order to have enough time to react if they're spotted. Unfortunately, along the way, a cult member who is pretending to be one of the stalled humans launches a surprise attack on Juri. Thankfully, Juri's grandfather stops the cult member before he can hurt her, and so she uses her new powers to expel his specter and keep him frozen in time like the people he was imitating. Sometime later, Juri's grandfather recalls the first time he found out about Juri's ability 17 years ago. Back then, she accidentally used the same power on him and was nearly trapped in time as a result. It doesn't take long before the cultists find their location again. Our party is once again pursued by more cultists, and this time, Juri's grandfather is unable to teleport away from them. As a result, the girl is forced to stand and hold all of them back, and uses her power to trap all of them in time. After surviving that, they head back to the hideout to rescue Tsubasa and Makoto. Unfortunately, when they get back there, the two captives are nowhere to be found, because they'd already escaped after they acquired the specters. Elsewhere, a handler kills one of the cultists for attempting to kill a motionless person. Majima witnesses this, and also sees when the handler collapses right after. She takes a closer look at the giant creature, and is taken aback when she finds out that it has a corpse inside it.